We're continuing on, as everybody knows, with Sri Sarada Devi and her divine play, really honoring God as woman, the feminine, the divine feminine. Somehow I like the way that kind of rolls, the divine feminine. A really nice sound to it. And Holy Mother, really manifesting God in a very, very special way. I think in a way that all human beings, not only human beings, probably everybody, because mothers are everywhere. And fathers are everywhere too, but there's a very special relationship. There's a reason that they call the manifestation feminine, the divine feminine. And so I think as people who are experiencing the world of change, I think there's a special connection with God as the mother, a very important one. And Vivekananda certainly believed that. He believed that the West had suffered under God as father long enough, and that now it's time for it to go through a period of God as mother to take the edge off of us. I think, we've become very edgy as a culture, very, very hard. And so I'm looking forward to the idea of mother becoming more dominant in our culture and in our practices. So we're on page 251. M supports Holy Mother, M being the writer or the recorder of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. After Ramakrishna passed away, the monastic disciples practiced austerities and traveled throughout India. They had no means with which to support Holy Mother. Both Balaram and Surendra, who had financially supported the master, died in 1890, and Holy Mother suffered as a result. Other householder devotees were not aware of Holy Mother's financial condition. At that time, M took 3 jobs and distributed his salaries to Holy Mother, the Baranagur Monastery, and his own family. Wow. Wow, what a beautiful dedication. That's the ideal of the householder, is that financial support for the self and the family. And then the second circle that they say is the holy people that you encounter. And then beyond that circle is the society that you live in. That those for the householder path, those 3 functions are as important for a householder as the monastic vows and the sangha are for the monk. That those are part of the practice, and that is how you prevent yourself or save yourself from becoming attached to your money, from becoming attached to worldly things, so that you live according to your necessities, not your needs, but your necessities. And you meet those necessities first for yourself, then for your wife, then for your immediate family, and then for your extended family to some degree, and then to the holy people that support your spiritual work, and then beyond that to your society at large. So if you have extra money, it's not just for yourself to go on a vacation. That we see from M here, that he took these vows. They're not vows as such, but I think they're the equivalent of the vows of a monk to a householder. That your selfless attitude about the things that Mother provides to you become the support of a great number of needy people whom Mother has asked not to support themselves in that way. And so you become the answer to another person's faith, which is a wonderful and beautiful notion to think about, and to see yourself as that you are the arm of the Mother that builds faith in her for her devotees. So we see he worked 3 jobs so that he could support a monastery, the Divine Mother, and his family. Other householder devotees were not aware of Holy Mother's financial condition. At that time, M took 3 jobs and distributed his salaries to Holy Mother, the Baranagur Monastery, and his own family. In 1894, he purchased a rice field of more than 1 acre in Jairambati for Holy Mother. He also provided 1,000 rupees to build a new house for her in Jairambati and to dig a well nearby. In addition to this support, M gave Holy Mother 10 rupees every month without fail. M and his wife accompanied Holy Mother when she went on pilgrimage to Puri in 1904 and to Varanasi in 1912. That really is amazing. I mean, that's quite a dedication there. Aside from just all the support, to give 1,000 rupees to build a house for Holy Mother, amazing. And to dig a well, really, really took it upon himself to be there for her. That's incredible. Holy Mother was very fond of M and his family, as Ramakrishna had been. She praised M's loving service and his steadfast devotion. Holy Mother said to Nikunja Devi, I know that Master Mahashai, M, has many noble qualities. On another occasion, she said, the way Master Mahashai walks reminds me of the Master, who would walk in the same way. One day, as she heard M read the Gospel, she remarked, it seems that the Master is saying those words. You know, the M really did work desperately at getting his egoistic self out of the way. That was one of the things that Swamiji really praised about the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, is that how M managed to not be a central character in that book. That actually, when you read that book, nobody but the Master really sticks out, is in the forefront. That's very hard to do, to write your own memory or your own reminiscences about somebody without you being a main character, or at least a very strong secondary character. And so you can see there was a blessing there. There was a certain inhabitance of M by the Master. You know, that when you really do think like someone, when you really do feel and have a strong devotion for someone like that, you do begin to take on some of their characteristics. You do take on some of their not just their ideals, but the way they might move or their hand gestures and whatnot. And so we see M really giving up that ego, really letting go, and very apparently even to Holy Mother, handing even himself over to Thakur, to Sri Ramakrishna. During Kali Puja in 1904, Holy Mother was staying at a rented house in Bospara Lane, Calcutta. M had informed her earlier that he would visit her that day. It was getting late at night. When someone said that perhaps M would not come, Holy Mother replied, is he an unreliable, ordinary man? He has deep passion for truth. You will see. He will definitely come. M arrived shortly thereafter. Right? That's what we've talked about a lot. Being a spiritual seeker means being a person of your word. You know, if you say something, everybody around you knows it's true. Oh no, they said they would be here. And you know, there's no doubt. And it's a very important characteristic to develop in ourselves. You know, I say these things, I just feel the challenge of Mother in my heart. Like, she's just smiling at me gently, but poking me right in the nose. Like, yes, you need to really develop this inner strength, you know, that your yes is yes and your no is no, that you are the one in charge. There is no one else in your body but you, right? And so you are the one responsible for what your body does. If you're a flaky person, don't be that way long. You know, that's kind of the modern ideal I've sort of seen out there in the world. People just sort of show up or not show up, and it's not really a big deal. But in spiritual life, it's a very big deal. If you say you're going to do something, you should absolutely do it. Not for any external benefit, but for that benefit inside, that you become a person of integrity. That you know when you tell yourself that you won't do something, that you won't do it. Or when you tell yourself you will do something, you will do it. Because spiritual life is a lot about that kind of integrity. It drives our practice. It drives our self-control. It drives our vows. So it's very important. Now, saying that, grace is also important, right? So the grace of the Mother is there, but that not only happens, but you only are able to take that grace when you know that you yourself are doing your very best. You know, grace to cover cheap expenses isn't grace, that's license, right? So if we find ourselves doing things in our life that we shouldn't do, because of grace, we don't understand grace. That's not the nature of grace. Grace would never inspire that kind of reaction. A knowledge of grace always inspires a higher attitude, a gratitude, a thankfulness, and a love in response. So that's how we know whether we understand grace or not. If we understand grace, we don't use it as license to go soft on ourselves. We live our life and offer love in response, because grace, if it's properly understood, inspires a deep and abiding love, a deep and abiding strength. On another occasion, Holy Mother said to Nikunja Devi, Master Mahashai's love and devotion are phenomenal. It just occurred to me, would that not be the most beautiful thing to have the Divine Mother say about you? Can you not imagine? Oh my goodness gracious. What an honor for him. Wow. His letter forced me to come to Calcutta from Kamarpur. He is a rare devotee. He is endowed with knowledge and devotion. His mind is pure, and the blood, bones, and flesh of his body are pure. Once a devotee bowed down to Holy Mother at Udbodhan. She told the devotee, Master Mahashai is downstairs. Please go and bow down to him. Know for certain he is a great soul. My respect, even after all these years, my respect is standing up inside for M. What a phenomenal person he must have been. Holy Mother once remarked of M, is he an ordinary man? He has recorded so many of the Master's teachings. Is there any other avatar whose picture and conversations have been taken or recorded in such detail? It is as if the Master is talking in M's book. And that's really the experience, isn't it? I mean, I remember sitting in Shanti Ashrama and having Vedananda read from the gospel every night in that light of the kerosene lamp. And really, when we read that book, it really did. It just such a hush and an atmosphere came into that room. Because, I mean, that was the perfect place for it, a place with no electricity and no telephones and just pure, rustic, fundamental, basic living. And you sit around that table, that old wooden table, and, these old, really old chairs, and sit there and read of the Master. When you read that book, he's present, very much present. And you know that it's scripture because you can read that book as many times as you want, and every time you're going to find something that you didn't remember reading before. You're going to find a detail that's going to be like, oh my gosh, I don't remember that being there at all, because it's continually unfolding. That's why Nisargadatta says, never make the mistake of thinking that you have read a scripture before, because scripture is living. Scripture in the moment is always new, and what it's going to show you is always new. And so if you make the mistake of thinking, oh, I've read that before, you're going to lose something that was new, that Mother had for you, was going to give to you. And so always read scripture for the first time. Never imagine that it's been read before, because even if you have read it before and you even get the same thing out of it the second time you read it, it's going to take it deeper for you. It's going to connect it to something more in you. So always read scripture with that attitude. A dialogue between Nikunja Devi and Holy Mother. Nikunja Devi was a close companion of Holy Mother. So on many occasions, the Mother shared with her stories of her life with the Master. Nikunja Devi related these stories to M, and he recorded them in his diary. Nikunja, Mother, in family life, there is only suffering and no peace. When I come to you, I get a little peace in my arid heart. It calms my soul when I address you as Mother, Holy Mother, Mother. Holy Mother, my daughter. You have seen the Master, so you have nothing to worry about. He is very fond of you. He said to me, M's wife is simple and open-hearted. She looks at me with wonder. Let me tell you, child, happiness and misery, good and bad, they both exist in this world. They come in the course of time, and people reap the results of their karma. One should make the mind strong and keep it on God. It is not good to always harp on suffering, right? We have to keep that positive bend. So the notion that family life is just misery, is only suffering and no peace, that's not a good way to talk about life, because life is a mixture of both, and both are necessary in life. You know, if we're not struggling, if times don't get difficult, we don't think about God as much. We don't consider what needs to change in our life. We don't strive as much. And that's one of the dangers in spiritual life, is reaching a plateau where you're content with your work, with your effort, and with your meditation. You're no longer kind of sitting at attention. You're no longer sitting on the edge. You've kind of relaxed and accepted your combination of good and bad. You know, in one sense, it's good to be content in that, but content in the sense of knowing that you're always going forward. It's a contentment in growth. It's not just a contentment in stagnation. It's a contentment in growth, a contentment in discipline, a contentment in learning. There's movement there, going forward, but an underlying, it's like the shock absorbers in your car. You should have that kind of contentment, the contentment that's always holding an even keel, right? But it's always active, it's always adjusting, always learning, always growing. So your contentment in your spiritual life is like that. It's not pulling over at the rest stop and just hanging out because you like this section of the road. Nakunja, Mother, when I talk to you, I feel so strong and my mind becomes peaceful. That is why when I feel restless, I long to come to you. Holy Mother, child, when I was 18 or 19 years old at Dakshineshwar, I used to sleep in the Master's room. One day he asked me, "Who are you?" And I replied, "I have come to serve you." One day there was no salt during lunch, so I said, "There is no salt." He scolded me, saying, "What is this? Never, never say negative words. Try to collect everything." Wow, never say negative words. There is no salt. Yes, I guess you would say, "I'm going to get some salt," or "I will get some salt," or something positive like that. It's interesting. I actually remember Swami Prabhupada sort of had that kind of practice. Like if you offered him something at the dinner table, he would never say no. If he wasn't going to take it, he would say later. I'll take some later. And I asked him one time, after recognizing that, because, I said, Maharaj, why don't you just say no if you're not going to have any? And he smiled and he said, "Oh, because I'm always afraid that Mother won't offer it to me again if I say no." Right. So he always said, "Oh, I'll take some later." But it's this kind of practice, just always keeping, like Brother Lawrence also too. He said in all of his practice, he said, "I always maintained a gentle, fond regard for the presence of the divine." Always just inside, just keep a generally fond regard for yourself, for life, for the presence of the beloved, for the divine, for others. Always try and facilitate that inner feeling. Right. One of the things I noticed when I got tired yesterday. Okay, this is sort of a confession. After I got dropped off at the airport, And I was walking through, and my backpack on my back, and my neck was hurting, and all that stuff. And it just seemed, I think Mother was really, really putting her finger on my ego, just showing me a boundary, because I was tired and I was a little bit cranky, but I was trying not to be. I was aware of my crankiness, but I got on the plane, and I was in Group F. Now, on the website for Alaska Airlines, they say that their groupings go from A to E. I was in Group F. So I was behind the last people on the plane. And when I got on the plane, there was probably 20 people behind me. There was a woman, and a woman who had sat down in a seat that didn't belong to her because she wanted to sit next to her husband. And the stewardess was trying to explain to her that she can't sit there, that she has to sit in her purchased seat. But the stewardess was standing in the aisle for that entire conversation. It went on for like 10 minutes. And I'm standing there with my backpack on my shoulder, and my neck was already hurting, and I was already so tired. I was sitting there, and I was trying really hard. I was trying to behave myself. I promise you, I really was. But after about 8 minutes, something slipped out around the edges, and I just said with a great deal of impatience to the stewardess, can we not just clear the aisle? Oh my Lord. Well, the woman turned to me and she said, is there a problem, sir? And I said, not really. I just said, but if you cleared the aisle, all 50 of us could get by and get to our seats. And she said, I can promise you, sir, this is small beans. And, and the Divine Mother was right there, just looking me in the eye saying, this is small beans. You better get this kind of stuff into your into your ability to digest. And I went, sat down in my chair, and I just sat there. I was like, I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. Here I've gone through this whole week with the devotees, and everything was so beautiful. And then on this little thing like this, my mind gets impatient, and I got a little mean. So it's like this, it's this kind of practice. You have a shrine in you. That's where you live. Pay attention to the atmosphere of that shrine, because it's up to you to generate the beautiful atmosphere of love and compassion, contentment, joy, and a general fond regard for life, for being. And that can happen. So watch yourself when you're driving. Don't say things about other drivers. Watch yourself when you're boarding the plane and the woman in front of you is, taking
But
weight.
Maharaj, you were so right, though.
What's
You
that?
know, you were so right. I mean, and the hostess should have thought about the others.
Well, it's true, but those things, I didn't say those things because I was really concerned about the others. That made a good argument. But I really was saying those things because I was like, get out of my way. That's what I was feeling. Because if it had been all right, Mother would not have spoken to me through the stewardess. The stewardess would have stepped aside and said, terribly sorry, please continue down the thing. But she didn't. She turned and she looked at me, and I knew that Mother was about to say something to me. I just had that feeling. And when she started in and scolded me on this being small beans, stewardesses don't do that to grown men. It's like stewardesses don't talk that way. And so when she was like scolding me and telling me this is small beans, that I should be able to digest this, I knew I knew I was being corrected, and rightfully so, because it was true. And so this is what we want, and we have to be careful inside. How do you talk to yourself inside when you're addressing yourself? Are you respectful? That goes back to that 1 Corinthians 13 teaching. Love is patient, love is kind, love always hopes, always believes, love never fails. This is the kind of attitude and atmosphere we want to generate in ourselves, toward ourselves, first and foremost. Because if we don't talk to ourselves kindly, and we're not encouraging to ourselves, and we don't always hope and always believe in ourselves, there's no way that we're going to be able to do that for people outside, right? So you should always have that inner strength. Like you always believe yourself. When you say you're not going to do something, you believe you're not going to do it, even though you've done it a million times before. You have to believe because mother believes, that you will not fail. So you must believe that you will not fail. And you should speak kindly to yourself. Mother says that you have to befriend the mind. Don't make an enemy of your mind. So speak gently to yourself and always be encouraging to yourself and always stay in the positive, like this, what Master is saying here. So when you talk to yourself, if you're correcting yourself, put it in positive terms. Do better. Don't just don't just hark on the bad stuff. Just take it from a positive angle and believe you're going to do better. Because who are you talking to in there? Right now, you think it's you, but one day you're going to realize that all those words were to the self, to the divine presence, right? And so you should never talk to yourself in your mind any differently than you would talk to the divine presence, because one day you will understand that's who you were addressing, right? And so keep that in mind and strive to build a beautiful and positive energy within your own self that then will manifest in the world. And it's not hard to do if we keep God in mind. If you keep the presence of the beloved, it's not hard to stay positive. As a matter of fact, it becomes much more difficult to not stay positive. Right? So that's another reason among the myriads of reasons that we constantly keep our mind on God, on the divine, on our highest ideal, right? Because that love is amazing. That love is more than everything. And to see it in ourselves and to build that atmosphere within ourselves will allow us to identify it in everything in the outside world, even the difficult stuff. We can see the love behind it. So never say negative words. Try to collect everything. When I was at Karmarpur in 1867, Ramlal's father asked me to go to the master's room to sleep at night. The master would laugh. At the time, we shared a bed, but spent the night talking about God. He taught me how to perform household work and how to behave with people, and how to know that God is your own and the only reality. What a wonderful What a wonderful relationship where you're laying there together, intimate partners already. But what you talk about and what you inspire in each other is the presence of God. And that's the things that you naturally talk about. What a beautiful ideal. I mean, look at that. He taught me how to perform household work and how to behave with people, how to know that God is your own, and how to know that God is the only reality. When my mother visited Karmarpur, the master treated her with love and care and asked her, "Please make some pickles for us." When I was at Jairambati, the master came there. He asked me to wash his feet with fuller's earth, a type of clay. At this, the other women commented about my loving service to my husband. When my mother-in-law was grief-stricken at the demise of her son, Rameshwar, the master would spend most of his time with his mother and console her. One day he prayed to the Divine Mother, "Mother, I want to chant your name, but if my mother always grieves and cries, how is it possible to call on you? Please change my mother's mind." Actually, this prayer was answered, and my mother-in-law remained most of the time in an ecstatic mood. Wow, that's delightful. But again, you see, he's pointing to that positive attitude. It's like, don't always be beaten. Don't always focus on the bad. Always look for good and always try and keep the good at the forefront in your mind. No matter what the challenge is, no matter what the challenge is. Even the words of Christ on the cross, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Staying positive, even your body's nailed to a cross, for crying out loud. You're laying there on your dying, no doubt in horrible pain. And what was on his mind? The forgiveness of others, not wanting bad karma to come to them. for doing that to him. Forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. What a compassion. So even in the extremes, this is possible, right? Because I know the reason I say that is because I know that all of us, when we think, oh, try and be positive, don't think of the evil, every one of us will be like, yeah, but, and then present our story, present why we can't or why we get a special pass. But no matter how bad it gets, no matter how bad it gets, always look around for the good. Train yourself that way. I tried to do this a little bit, not to offend anybody from Calcutta. But when I first got to Calcutta, when I was planning to be there for 2 years, I only ended up there for 6 months in 2012, but I thought I was going to be living there for a couple of years. And, the pollution was quite striking, and the heat and the smog and just the general, the keep of the place was quite stressful at first for me. And I had to think, okay, God, I'm going to be here for 2 years, and I can't walk around noticing how this, that, and the faults of everything for 2 years. What kind of person am I going to be? And so for a practice, I went and bought a camera, which was an interesting thing as a sannyasin to go into a store to buy a camera. But I went in there, I bought a camera, and my goal was every day that when I took my walk, that I would look for beautiful things. I would look for beautiful things to photograph. And so I put it together a series of photos. You can find it online still. It's not that big of a deal, but called Colors of Kolkata, spelled with K's, Kolors of Kolkata, Kolkata, and just snapped pictures of beautiful children and beautiful colors and flowers and walls and ruins and people asleep in their rickshaws. I just trained myself to stop seeing the negative and to stop finding things to complain about, and to try and change this spoiled Western mind into a mind of gratitude, into a mind of beauty, to a mind that that would enjoy life wherever it was placed. And so this is how we do that. And that's why this center here that we're trying to do in Colorado, if that's what we're trying to do, is the mission statement for me anyway. The mission statement is to find good and fan it. To find good. Whoever comes to this place, for whatever reason, my job is to find the best in them, find the good in them, and provide them tools for enhancing that, for growing in that. And so this is the mission statement for the Colorado Vedanta Center, which is still to come. But see, we get this from the master. He's the one that teaches us these beautiful things, and Holy Mother is the delivery of it, giving it to us right here. Because look at her life. My God, she could have gone very bitter. I mean, her family was a little bit less than supportive. Some of them were outright troublesome. Her neighbors in her village would gossip about her crazy husband all the time and bemoan, oh, that poor girl, look at her crazy husband. And her husband was living in Calcutta, and she was having to live there in Jairambati and endure all of that. And she could have gone very bitter, and then even coming to the center there and having to sleep in the Nahabat, that tiny little place with all of her stuff, and having to cook in there for everybody. And she could have been in a real funk, and we wouldn't be reading about her. It would have been a very different story. We certainly wouldn't hear these kinds of words. And so we see a great example in Ma, in her ability to digest everything and to come out positive. And we find that it was that the master was seeing that flame in her and was feeding it. Shambhu Malik made a cottage for me, but I was reluctant to live there. When I told the master, he said to Hriday, bring your wife here from Sihar. Hriday replied, did Shambhu Malik build that cottage for my wife? At that time, there was a brahmachari, tantric sadhaka, in Dakshineshwar. I was scared of him, thinking that he might do some harm to the master, so I offered 10 rupees to him. Learning about it, the master came to the Nahabat and said, don't worry, I have the Divine Mother. Who can do any harm to me? Right? One day the master said to Ramdatta and others, you see, she talks about children. You all go to the Nahabat and tell her, Mother, we are your children. Once we went together to Kamarpakur by boat via Bali Deoangani, something like that. In 1877, we ate wonderful prasad, and he sang so many songs on the way. What a great mood he was in. And he said to me, I know who you are, but I will not tell you now. Pointing to himself, he said, everything is inside this place. Right? Everything is inside this place. And that's a beautiful. I don't think that's only for the avatar. You know, we are not given that level of power, but we're given that same presence within, right? And so if you're in a bad mood, or if you're angry, or if life isn't going right, you can look in the mirror yourself and say, everything is inside this place. God is here. You know?
Maharaj,
Yeah.
please go that again. Everything is inside in this place.
Yeah. So once we went together to Kamarpakur by boat via Bali Deongani. Does anybody know, am I pronouncing that anything like it's supposed to be pronounced? I hate being such a cow. We ate wonderful prasad, and he sang so many songs on the way. What a great mood he was in. And he said to me, I know who you are. You know, he knew that she was the mother of the universe. I know who you are, but I won't tell you now. And pointing to himself, he said, everything is inside this place. And everything, meaning everything. The whole world was in there. The entire universe was in there. You know, this is something important. You know, I was seeing a therapist for a long time, as many of you know. And I really was carrying this very dark place in the heart, just a lot of stuff. I won't turn this into a session, but there's a lot of dark stuff in there, and where my depression was kind of festering, you know, and it was very inaccessible. It was hard to get in there. One, because there was just a lot of pain there, a lot of darkness there. And I remember one time, really in a meditation, really trying to fearlessly walk right into the center of that dark place in there, and to picture myself putting down a flag, you know, like they did on the moon, just putting a flag down there and making a declaration out loud in that space. Love will win here. Love will win here. And it's true. Love did. That space is gone. You know, it took many years, but it's gone. And so this is the key that Master is giving to us. This is how he's showing us. Go to the darkest places inside, the places of the deepest disappointments, or the most shame, or the deepest hurt, or the deepest struggle, whatever it is. Go in your meditation to the center of that space and put a flag there with force. Drive it into the ground and make a declaration. Love will win here. In this place, love will win here. You know, and be dedicated to that. And know, you know, this is why we want to be people of integrity. Let our yes be yes and our no be no. So that you know, when you make a declaration, love will win here. You know it's true. It will happen. And Mother, because of that integrity, will bless it. When my mother-in-law was dying on the 13th of February, 1877, he said, "O Mother, who are you that you carried me in your womb? Mother, you have looked after me in this form. Henceforth, please do the same." One day after his mother's passing away, he told me before lunch, "Please wait. Let me go to the Panchavati and cry for my mother." About his monthly salary of 7 rupees, he said to the manager, "If you wish, give that money to her," meaning the Holy Mother. "Otherwise, throw it into the Ganges, or spend it for the guests. Do whatever you like." Now, this is a very important lesson. This is a very important lesson. When you give something to the temple, when you give something to the divine, it's no longer your concern what happens to it. If you take your dish of rice to be offered, and the pujari, the helper in the kitchen, takes a small spoon of that and puts it into a small container on the tray, it's not yours to insist on putting the whole thing on the tray. You know, if you have to, you when you give something, giving means that you give. That means you let go of it. It's no longer your concern, right? Otherwise, what does it become? It becomes an extension of egoism. You know, it's I see this all the time. It's like, you know, in many centers, you know, someone will bring food, and you know, it won't be placed on the table in the right place, or it'll be left in the kitchen, or the monks will decide they're going to eat that the next day. And you know, I've seen terrible reactions to that kind of thing. But so always when you give. That means let go of it completely. Otherwise, you haven't given it. You're still holding on to it. And so when you give something to someone, you know, let it go. Whatever they do with it is fine. You've given it to them, and that's what they did with it, right? So about his monthly salary of 7 rupees, he said to the manager, "If you want, give this money to Holy Mother. Otherwise, throw it into the Ganges." That's his salary. That was his attitude toward his salary. He's like, look, give it to my wife, or throw it in the river, or give it to somebody else. I don't care what you do with it. You know, that's detachment. That's really detachment. I can't imagine ever in my working days going and picking up my monthly salary and saying, ah, do whatever you want with it. Throw it in the river, give it to some person. I don't care. Whatever you want. You know, he was in it. Yeah. Anyway, we get the picture, but you understand. You don't have to go and throw your monthly salary into the Ganges. But it's a teaching of surrender. You know, at least have that attitude toward it in your mind, a detachment from it in your mind. When I was living in the Nahabat, once I spent the whole day making a beautiful garland. I requested him to put the garland on. He put the garland around his neck and then sang a song. Is there anything left for my decoration? I put on the necklace of universal jewels. That's how to receive. You know, that's how to receive a gift, is to just that wonderful appreciation for it. When I was living in the Nahabat, once I spent the whole day making a garland. I requested him to put the garland on. He put the garland around his neck and then sang a song. Is there anything left for my decoration? I put on the necklace of universal jewels. When I was about to leave for Jairambati, I went to see him in his room several times, which he did not like. He said to Hriday, why is she coming so many times? Ask her to go. One day he said to Golap Ma about me, what power of forbearance she has. I salute her. You know, so that symbol of coming back so many times to his room before she went to Jairambati, he saw that as attachment. You know, it's a tough teaching, but I try and do it too. When I say goodbye to somebody at the airport, I say goodbye, and once I've turned my back to walk into the airport, I discipline myself not to turn around again, not to, you know, look back and one final wave. You know, it's like, boom, go. You know, so this detachment, it's a good way to build your detachment. You see, you've already got your attachment build. That's what makes you want to turn around and look back again. But you have to create a detachment that's as strong as your attachment. And that's why you don't turn around. Right? So it's not that you want only detachment. You don't want to just get out of the car and walk away without saying goodbye. That's not the goal. You want some attachment. You want to share love. You want to express your gratitude. You want to express your how beautiful that person is to you. So you do that. You give them your hug. You stroke their head. You say, thank you so much for everything, you know, I'll see until we meet again. And then you turn and you go, finished. Your mind is now on not being mean to the stewardess. One day he said to Golub Ma about me, what power of forbearance she has. I salute her. Yeah, it's this power of forbearance, this patience. Yeah, it's patient. Oh boy, there it is. So yes, learn this forbearance, learn this patience for others. That's part of the always hoping, always believing. That's the nature of love, always hoping, always believing, always patient. Somebody can fail 1,000 times, right? There's a wonderful little video that I saw online of a family, a very young family. They had a little boy there, about 5 years old, I guess. Anyway, they're sitting down for dinner, and the little boy spills his glass of juice on the table. And the caption, somebody else had posted this video, and they say, "This is how you parent," because there was no fuss at the table. There was no fuss. Nobody yelled. Nobody showed any sign of, the mother got up, went to the kitchen and got the rag. The father, in the meantime, picked up the placemat and the plate and got it. And they just kept, there was such a positive thing about it that the boy never was made to feel like he had done anything wrong or had, any negative thing at all. They stayed so positive all the way through. And the young boy then was also trying to help and clean up the mess with them. But nothing, it was a non-issue. And you could see that it was utterly a non-issue. And so this patience is good for you to have for yourself also. Yes, you made a mistake. Yes, you dumped your juice. Yes, you did something you shouldn't have done. Yes, it was the 9th time today you did it, but you just keep a positive space inside. Yes, I made a mistake. I'm sorry, mother. You say that with your whole heart, and you don't give it a second thought. You don't come back to it. Oh God, I can't believe I did that. Oh, how embarrassing. That was so awful. I'm always being such an ass. you know, all those things that go on in our head. No, no, that's not the way it is. You are divine, and inside you have to treat yourself as divine. And you have to give yourself a positive bend on your mistakes. You walk away from them and you just keep going. Don't rehash them. Don't own them. Don't identify with them. Don't you dare make them define you. I'm ever free. I'm ever beloved of God. I'm a child of the mother. These are where we sit. I told you about that time in the monastery that when I was confessing something to Swami and he made me say it 3 times in a row, and I was sobbing. And I got scolded, not for what I had done wrong. I got scolded because I was sobbing after the 3rd time of confessing it. He said, "What is this crying? Stop this crying. You are a child of the mother. Your honesty has saved you today. Go to the shrine." Those words ring in my heart. Those words gave me an amazing amount of strength so that was not repeated again, by the grace of mother. And so this is how we go inside. You don't weep more than once for what you've done. Put your apology there, because anything more is a lack of faith. You're not accepting grace. You're not accepting grace. So accept that grace and let that be the motivation and the inspiration to find your strength in, to go forward and be changed. And if it happens again, you do the same thing again. And eventually that grace will touch you deep enough. When mother allows you to feel free, even after the 47,000th time you've done the same thing wrong, and she still lifts your heart and still gives you a sense of freedom in your apology, at some point you're going to understand that mother's grace is enough. And when you finally understand that, you will surrender everything in the face of that love. You'll surrender everything, and it will be a beautiful moment for you. probably the most beautiful moment for you. So keep going forward. What a power of forbearance she has. I salute her. One day he said, I know who you are and who Lakshmi is, but I won't tell you. To pay my debt to you, I shall be born as a Baal, a minstrel, and take you as my companion. Hearing that Lakshmi was fasting on Ekadashi day, he said, I am beyond the injunctions of the scriptures. Please eat well. He did not care to see women wearing a cloth without a border. He commented, it is a dress that an ogress would wear. During his sadhana, he saw Sita with diamond-cut bangles in the Panchavati. Observing the pattern on the bangle, he had a set made for me. However, he could not touch money. And you can still see those bangles at Bellarmont. Those bracelets that the Thakur had made that matched the bracelets that he had in the vision of Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth. You can see them there. He spent 300 rupees on them, which was an enormous amount of money. He only made 11 rupees a month. So that was a lot of money. But he gave it to her as an offering because he knew who she was. Right. One day I said to him, I have not had any spiritual ecstasy. To this he remarked, what do you expect? Does ecstasy mean that one will dance, letting the cloth fall? Who will then manage to keep the cloth in its proper place? A few days before his passing away, the master said, it is better to be miserly than to be an extravagant wretch. Right. So what is this? What do you expect? Does ecstasy mean that you will dance and that the cloth will fall? He's like, don't search for ecstasy. Don't make your spiritual life about enlightenment. About an ecstatic experience, about a vision, about, anything. Make your spiritual life a celebration of the presence of God that is within you. By default, by nature, that can't be taken away from you. God is always present there, always willing to be there, always waiting for you to notice that presence. Don't go looking for things. Spiritual life is not an acquisition, it's a realization. And a realization means that it's the understanding of a truth that has always been. So don't be a beggar to your senses, to the world, to a swami, to an institution, to a religion, to a philosophy. You have all that you need, all that you will ever want, all that is necessary. So let your meditations and your practice be that celebration, to sit in that divine knowing. That is to accept grace. That is to understand divine love. That is what it is to be free. Right? And that is what gives you a smile when nothing else will. That is what will give you strength when nothing else works. And it's what you have always present within you. Right? That's a good place to stop for today.